This is Josh Bycer from GameWisdom.com. I hope you enjoyed this Critical Thought, your daily discussion on game design. Welcome to today's Critical Thought. As always, thank you to 910 subscribers here on YouTube. I hope everyone is enjoying the content here. And if you're watching this for the first time, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. When we hit 1,000, there'll be another big Let's Play vote and a little cause for celebration. If you haven't voted yet for the 900 Let's Play, be sure to do that. Your choices are between a play of Fez, Bastion, or Aquaria. Leave a vote on any other critical thoughts, and we'll wrap up the voting probably in a few days. As you can tell by our screenshot up there, today's topic is going to be on Metroidvania design. Metroidvania, of course, being the ever-popular combination of Metroid and Castlevania play. It's one of the cases where a game, in a sense, became almost indicative of a genre. As you know, Metroid started off back in the, I think it was late 80s, early 90s, featuring action-adventure gameplay where the player would upgrade their character over the course of a play. And while it was popular, it didn't really catch on until Castlevania Symphony of the Night. And Castlevania SOTN really brought this almost genre to life. This was Konami's attempt at revitalizing the Castlevania brand instead of moving it to 3D, as a lot of the other major franchises were doing in the mid-90s. And the Metroidvania genre has definitely caused some interesting debates. Some of the big ones are, what is the genre, and do we even classify it as a genre? And it's quite weird to talk about like that. Like when we refer to platformers, we don't say a platformer is a Mario game, or a Mario genre, or RPG is Dungeons and Dragons, stuff like that. But Metroidvania has certainly stuck. And I want to talk about what makes a game Metroidvania, and some of the big differences and when it's not considered. The first thing about a Metroidvania game is that there has to be mechanic growth over the course of the play. What that means is how you play the game from beginning to middle to end is different depending upon what items you found, what upgrades you've gotten from boss fights, whatever. The original Metroid being a perfect example of this. You start out with a basic gun, and you'll eventually unlock missiles, the screw attack, the speed boots from Super Metroid, different suits, you name it. And as you play through, how you go through the different environments changes by the fact that you've become more powerful. It's not just you doing more damage or you having more health. It's that now you have a double jump. Now you have an infinite jump. Now you can go into lava environments. The environments through a Metroidvania game don't change or warp or contort, but they're designed in a way that you can experience them differently based on where you're at in the game. If you want to see another example of this, you can look at Axiom Verge, who give you a number of very weird and unusual powers that allow you to move through the environment. Then there is a grappling hook, there's a kind of like warp glitch attack in that game, as well as the normal weapons. With Symphony of the Night, they certainly did that. Alucard gains the ability to turn to different forms, he gets new weapons, stuff like that. Now, that is the interesting part about Metroidvania. Some people, or some uses of it, tend to stress the RPG side. That is allowing your character to level up, equip different gear, different equipment, stuff like that. And while that certainly adds to it, it's not really Metroidvania. Like I said, the point of a Metroidvania game is that the player has to change how they get through these levels. And that means having these new mechanics. A really good example of this, of a more modern take, would be Shadow Complex, which I did a little stream of it the other night. The game takes place in, a Tom Clancy-esque, modern day but still future tech kind of thing, and your character gets pieces of a advanced military suit, and they basically tie it into like the powers that you would see in a fantasy game. So you get a double jump, then you get a triple jump, then you get speed boots, grappling hook, you name it. And the point stands, as you play through the game, your path through will change as you get more of these upgrades. Before, you would have to spend maybe an extra 2-3 minutes going up a series of platforms. Now I can just triple jump up, wall jump, and get across, and I'm not even batting an eye. And that's where Metroidvania is at its best. I recently tried Salt of Sanctuary, and from what I'm seeing, while people have been trying to describe it as either a Metroidvania or a Dark Souls Light, it doesn't really pass the Metroidvania test from what I'm seeing. Because of the fact that it doesn't seem like I'm gaining actual new abilities. And that's the key point. You can have an RPG system in a Metroidvania title, but that doesn't make it Metroidvania. Basically the point of this whole post is very simple, or this whole video. You have to have mechanic growth. Player has to change how they're going through the game. And that's where things get very tricky as a game developer. You have to essentially design a game that has to be played in multiple different ways while giving the player enough powers and upgrades to make it feel different. One of the things that we see in the lesser quality Metroidvania titles is the fact that upgrades are simply keys. I did air quotes there because the game won't call them keys, but they're essentially only used for either a very specific situation or to get past an obstacle. Let's say, for instance, I gain the power of flame, and all it does is let me open up flame doors or walk across lava. I get no flame attacks. It doesn't change what I'm doing. It's simply a means of saying this door is locked or you can't go here. Well, now you can. Another challenge of Metroidvania design, again, is the fact that the level design has to, again, be built around these multiple areas or multiple mechanics. One of the things that we typically see in a Metroidvania game is, let's say we have like 4 sections here. You start up here, and you're going to work your way down here. The first section, the platforms themselves, and the environment and the obstacles will be built around a player who has no upgrades. So let's say if my hand is here and I can jump this high, the platforms will be about here. As you get further into the game, the level design will start to warp and be improved or more challenged as the developers know that you have these upgrades. And it's important to design the levels not only to reward players who go back with upgrades, but they should test the player with those upgrades as you get further in. For instance, if I unlock the ability to wall jump, in the early parts of the game, that could be considered a means of finding secrets. By the time I get to the end or 3/4 of the way through, wall jumping should become a staple of the level design. I should be challenged to wall jump my way across pits. Same thing goes for double, triple jumps, you name it. The example of the platforms I just mentioned, when you get later in, platforms should be now further apart to now challenge you to now force to do those double and triple jumps. If you just give the player upgrades but don't test them on it, then what was the point? And there's always that balance between making the player powerful but not game-breakingly powerful. Many games tend to use this by having MacGuffins that you find, or power-up packs or modules. And what they do is, for the player who explores and takes their time, the game will become a lot easier for them. Finding health upgrades, finding weapon power-ups, missile packs, bomb packs, any kind of packs that you can think of. And if a normal player just plays through the game just straight through, not looking for secrets, they're going to have a harder time, but it will still be beatable. The player, on the other hand, who spends their time finding all these great stuff, will become death incarnate. And depending upon how far you want to go, that is dependent on the game. In Castlevania, for instance, you can level up a la carte and get health upgrades, or you can find the health potions and the magic potions as you play. But again, you need to give good secret design. And secret design, that could be its own critical thought right there. But to quickly touch on it, good secrets should tempt the player. You should be walking, and maybe you see a ledge way up there, and you know you can't get to it now. You don't have the means. but it's going to be in the back of your mind when you get the double jump upgrade. Or maybe you get a hover power or anything like that. And now you go, maybe I should go back there and find that. Now, one thing about secrets that you need to watch out for is secrets that are, well, too secret. Having a thing that the player would never know there's a secret unless you were reading a guide or watching a Let's Play on. And we talked about strategy guide game design, I believe, in an earlier critical thought, so I'll leave it at that. Now, Castlevania Symphony of the Night is quite unique, and it's one of the reasons why it's still highly regarded, as there is an entirely secret way to beat the game, which unlocks the second castle, which literally flips the entire map upside down and throws completely brand new enemies in. It can be a little tricky to find, and it's kind of debatable if something like that would still work in today's design philosophy. But it's always a great way of rewarding players who take the time, and if there are hints and little tidbits to clue the player in, then that is perfectly acceptable. Now, we're about 11 minutes in, so we'll wrap things up a little bit. Like I said, with good Metroidvania design, there has to be mechanic growth. RPG-based progression is not considered Metroidvania. It's a part of it, and many games will make use of it, but it's not it's not the main draws of Metroidvania design. Again, you have to come up with a series of upgrades and power-ups that change how the game is played. I'm trying to think off the top of my head more great examples and more not so great examples. The only ones that are coming to my mind are the great ones. Titles like Aquaria, Shadow Complex, even something like Valda's Story, Abyssal City had some interesting elements to it. But, as I said, coming up with these upgrades is a very important part of game development and of being a designer. Because once you've added them in, you have to consider them when you're building your levels and you're designing them. If you didn't watch it, I did a podcast interview with Jeremiah, I think, Ingham. He's developing the game Venture Forth, which is trying to be a procedural-based Metroidvania roguelike title. And he talked about the design philosophy of building these levels at the same time knowing that the player is going to have to gain these new powers, and that's going to affect things and then change how things grow as you go along. But we can easily spend another 10-20 minutes talking more about Metroidvania design. For those of you watching, are there any good examples of hidden gems of the Metroidvania genre? Let me know in the comments below. Also, we didn't touch on this too much, but what do you think about calling the genre Metroidvania? Do you think that's an apt genre description? Can you think of a better one? Let me know below. I think before I didn't consider Metroidvania to be its own genre, but I think I've come around to it because I can't think of any cleverer title for it. It's not quite an RPG, as we said. It's not quite an action game as well. It's kind of like a strange mix of the two. I guess here's one last question for you. I guess this is a semi-tangent. Would you consider the Zelda games to be an example of Metroidvania design? You're getting new powers and upgrades as you play that change how you go through later dungeons. But I think the only problem with the Zelda series and trying to classify as Metroidvania is the fact that it doesn't... I've lost the word I was thinking of. It doesn't, I guess, go back. It doesn't refresh the previous levels. Earlier dungeons aren't going to be made different because you have a new upgrade. Every dungeon is essentially self-contained. Now, subsequent dungeons will make use of your earlier tools and tactics, but it's not the same as in Metroidvania where you can really see that progress from beginning, middle, and end in terms of what your abilities are and what you can now do. But I think we'll wrap it up here. As always, thank you to everyone who is liking and subscribing to the YouTube channel. Be sure to vote for the 900 Let's Play. Check out game-wisdom.com. We got some great posts and podcasts up. And other than that, I will see you all tomorrow Once again, I'm Josh Bycer from GameWisdom.com, where we examine the art and science of games. Thanks for watching today's Critical Thought, and I'll see you all then. Take care. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoy it, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and of course share with your friends. It always helps out. For daily posts on all manner of game design and industry topics, check out game-wisdom.com. To support the site and everything that I do, be sure to check out the Patreon campaign. If we can hit goals, it will mean more content for everyone to enjoy, and I'll be able to support myself and my household. If you want to follow me, you can find me on Twitter at GWBycer for updates throughout the day and random thoughts from me. And lastly, you can find me on Twitch right over there at GWBycer for daily streams most nights around 10 Eastern. Thanks again for watching the video, and be sure to check out more great content coming to the Game Wisdom channel real soon.